All right, this is Frank DeMore from the End Times Research Ministry, and I want to bring something to our attention in case you haven't read all of the news of what's going on between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Because both Saudi Arabia and Yemen are mentioned in prophecy for the last days. Saudi Arabia is mentioned in the Psalm 83 war against Israel, where we see God warning about a coalition of Arab nations coming together and attacking Israel, trying to wipe her out or wipe her off the map. Now, Yemen, however, is not mentioned. Now, Yemen is not mentioned in the Psalm 83 war. Yemen, for those of you who may not know, is Dedan. Now, in Ezekiel chapter 38, you're going to be reading about Sheba in Dedan, and of course it goes on to talk about the young lions of Tarshish, which we believe is the United States, and the breakoff of Great Britain, which is the lion. The young lions mentioned in Ezekiel 38 appear to be the United States, lions. Canada, and now, Great Britain. The symbol for Great Britain is a lion. So the breakoff would be those nations that separated themselves from Great Britain to become their own nations. And so we know that these names are in Scripture pertaining to Bible prophecy. Now, if you've been watching the news, you've seen just yesterday and today, we see that Saudi Arabia is attacking Yemen. When you look at the map here, you'll see Yemen is in red. Let's just refer them to as Dedan, if you will. So, okay, let's start at the beginning and work our way backwards. This way you'll get a good idea what I'm trying to connect those dots between prophecy and current events for you. We know that Yemen will not fall to Iran-backed rebels, Ahadi, because the Bible tells us in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 13, that Sheba and Dedan will verbally oppose an attack on Israel, but they don't do anything. So there's a protest we see in Ezekiel 38. But they physically don't go in there. So we know that they're watching the events going down when this massive army from Ezekiel chapter 38, which will be Turkey and led by Russia and those major allies, coming in to try to wipe out Israel after the Psalm 83 war. Now, if the rebels were going to take Yemen or Dedan, then Yemen or Dedan would be listed under the Persian Empire players of the Ezekiel War along with Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan, but we don't see that. So as we see it now, we can pretty well determine the outcome. However, what we do not know is how the Lord will use these wars to bring about, number one, His plan, and number two, it could possibly be the spark that sparks the Psalm war. So, what's going on between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, which are backed by Iran, those rebels, could lead to another war, the first war, which would be the Psalm 83 war. Now, my thinking, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi, etc., are all involved in these strikes on Yemen. This is what we're looking at in the news. But Iran and the Hezbollah have condemned them. And we know that the Hezbollah is a true enemy of Israel, calling for the destruction of the nation of Israel. Now, the Havis may say that they aren't asking for Iran's help, but we know that's not true. Iran is already in Iraq, and we know it the whole time. They denied it. Now, here's a quote from Lebanon. The former Prime Minister of Lebanon and the current head of the predominantly Sunni, yet secular Future Movement Party, Sayed al-Harari, told the El Arabian News that we all have good relations with Iran, but Iran cannot intervene with the way it is intervening in Yemen. All right, so what I'm trying to say is this. We don't know what type of backdoor deal Iran may make. Only God knows that for sure. What if they get the Hezbollah and Hamas to attack Israel while this is going on? That is a possibility. How long do you think it would take for the other Arabs who hate Israel to join that fight in exchange for the Hadi giving back Yemen? What if they get Hamas to attack Egypt again and Egypt starts crying about not being able to defend their airspace? We know Obama is mad at Israel right now and is looking for revenge. Now, that's sad to say, but We see that coming from the White House. I mean, there are so many possibilities how this will go. But we need to be diligent looking for what's happening when it comes to those scriptures. When I mean to that, I mean the wars. We know that for sure. What about this? What if Obama agreed to get Saudi to do this to even the playing field and make Israel feel better about Iran's power? In exchange, Israel agrees to release the PA funds today. This is the news. This is what we saw. Or Obama may be using this to get even with Israel. What if that's part of the nuclear negotiations? Of course, they've been going on for a very long time, and I told you nothing was going to happen with those negotiations because Israel cannot allow the Iranians to have the nuclear weapons. So these nuclear negotiations are very, very important, meaning a quid pro quo. You give us Yemen in a splashy way so everyone's looking over here, but really in the end you'll get to attack Israel. What if this isn't a play on Obama's part, and since he's supporting Saudi, Hezbollah decides to punish America by attacking Israel? So obviously there are so many ways that this could happen. All I know, and I'm sure that anybody that's been watching the news and knows the Psalm 83 war and how that's supposed to go down, everyone should know that Israel is already surrounded. Just take a look around. You'll see the Shia and the Sunnis are surrounding Israel. One wrong move, one stray bullet, and it could begin. So when we look at Saudi Arabia, their role in the Psalm 83 war, when we look at Yemen or Dedan, we know that their role as well in the Ezekiel war, meaning that Saudi Arabia, Yemen, who is Dedan, will not be attacking Israel. And so more than likely, of course anything could change, but more than likely the Iranian-backed force in Dedan or Yemen will not prevail because of what we know in prophecy in Ezekiel.